Hey everybody, it's me, DiogenZ, and it's time for this week's Pokemon of the Week. But before we get into the strategic talk, let me just tell you all how I choose Pokemon of the Week, because by viewing the comments from some of the previous videos, I can see a lot of you are discontent with who I'm choosing. So you know, it's all random selection. I'm never going by any specific tier, and there's a big reason for that. When you're going on Pokemon Online, which is the battle simulator, compared to Smogon, they are two very large sites and two very large spheres of influence when it comes to metagame that have their own community that use their own specific tiers. So since there's no unification within tiers, and within the upcoming EV training videos I'm doing, you'll see what exactly a tier does, why a Pokemon would be classified as such. But since they're not unified and people can't agree with them everywhere, I don't want to be making this series go with that standard. How you can expect this series to go is maxing out the potential for whatever Pokemon is being reviewed. So it's up to you to decide what tier to put it in once it's all raised fighting fit for its own potential. So when you're in the comments today, remember that I'm not choosing for any specific tier. If there happens to be a Pokemon you guys really want to see, if I see its name multiple times pop up in the comment section below, I will most likely take it for EV training spin. But this week we are working with the supporting wall that is Forretress. The supporting wall Forretress has pretty damn good defense. Its defense is awesome, but not so great special defense. So when you're choosing your nature, get a nature that maxes out special defense. I went with the careful nature because that diminishes speed, and with a 40 base speed you can tell that Forretress is not really going to be outrunning anyone. Of course, the option always exists for those who have the strategy that it would be most advantageous for in their team to do a Trick Room set, in which Forretress would be a lot faster due to its highly low speed. So with this, my moveset is a bit interesting. A lot of you may disagree with it, but here's why I chose it for this particular supporting wall, and then I'll let you in on what more common Forretress carriers have. Explosion is the last-ditch effort that allows Forretress to go out with a bang if you can. Toxic is a very good move that poisons most Pokemon, except for poison types and steel. And Reflect and Light Screen will raise your team's defense and special defense. So you can already see the way that Forretress is going to be used here. He's not going to be the first Pokemon you send out. That would be a bad idea. What you'd really like to send out is your more attacking Pokemon near the beginning, and if your team needs boosted defense, that's when supporting wall Forretress goes in. It's meant to take the brunt of the force of many great damages except for fire. That's its only weakness, so it makes for a sufficient switch out to negate damage almost every time. And when you have that opportunity, that's when you hit them with the toxicity and you raise your team's defense and special defense. Now there's another way that you can raise this supporting wall, and you could change it drastically by deciding what moveset to give it. Again, I went with this one just to mix it up a bit because it's a set that I haven't seen played often, so I want to know how it will function in the metagame when it does come to fruition. But one more common set is Stealth Rocks, Toxic Spikes, or Spikes, just to do average damage. U-Turn or Volt Switch, and now with U-Turn, I almost would go ahead and recommend U-Turn more, and that's to get away from any danger, or swap out once you've set up your arena traps, swap out with some other teammate. But with Volt Switch, unfortunately, you can be semi-walled by a ground type. So if you go to switch and an opponent is predicting and seeing on a Forretress a Volt Switch of yours, then you're not going to be able to swap out, and in turn will probably be hit with a powerful ground type move. Now, the last move, not turn, but move I would recommend it has is Rapid Spin. This way, Rapid Spin allows you to blow away all of the arena traps your opponent sets up on you. So it works for both ways. It works for setting up arena traps, and it works for getting rid of them. And if you're hit with a taunt, then it will go right to U-turn and go to something that is much more offensive to take out your opponent. So it can't be taunt trapped, and it's a bit better than the set that I have here for you today officially on the Pokédex with Explosion, because if this Forretress is taunted, all it can do is explode. Or, of course, you could switch it out, but then you take the turn to waste the swap. So think about what your team lacks. If your team needs extra defense, do be keeping this in mind that Forretress himself lacks special defense, so maybe you want to raise your team around that weakness and then supplement it with a light screen. This way, not only do you have Explosion, but you could have a U-turn or a Volt Switch in order to avoid the possible explosion by taunt. Now, what's really good about Volt Switch, the benefits of it, is if you come in contact with a water Pokemon, you can do some significant damage before you leave the field, even though you're not investing any effort values into the attack stat. Oh, and another thing I would like to clarify as to why I don't max out 252 on each stat. Plain and simply, you don't get an EV boost unless you have 4 effort value points. All the effort values are divisible by 4, so every 4 effort value points equals a stat boost by 1. So with that in mind, I try to make everything that I am presenting divisible by 4 so it all comes out equally, and any additional effort values, normally when it comes to a wall, I throw to the health. But that has been Forretress, the supporting wall of this week. Let me know in the comments below, which set do you like better, the one that is up on screen now or the one that I suggested to the side, the Stealth Rock Spikes, not Gyro Ball, sorry, Rapid Spin, and Volt Switch or U-Turn Forretress. Let me know below. Either way, this guy is a supporting wall that's important to note because he does a lot of handy-dandy little things with messing up your team's strategy by giving them status poison and also making it so that their attacks are lesser on your team with the barriers. He's a great supporter. He's not the biggest, burliest wall of them all, and that's very apparent in his 60 base stat special defense, but he will be able to have some lasting power to give your team the extra advantage it needs with arena traps and also tricky status diminishers. I've been DioGenZ. Remember to subscribe to Planet Poke for this and many more great pieces of Pokemon content. I'll see you guys next week.